Welcome, kindred spirits, to Astro Psych, a space where we delve beyond the surface of the stars into the very heart and psychology of our astrological blueprints and transits. Today's date is April 10th, 2025, and the time is 2:44 p.m. We'll be looking at the full pink Libra moon occurring April 12th, 2025 at 8:22 and 12 minutes p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, hailing out of Lynchburg, Virginia. This particular moon is at 23 degrees of Libra, and it is in the 12th house. So thank you for joining me. My name is Kathleen Thomas, and here's a quick review as we look at the month of April and some important transits I want to bring out right at the beginning. We know that we had the solar eclipse in Aries, and on March 30th had Neptune move into Aries for the next 14 years. And so this was a huge shift, as we have now an outer planet that will take 14 years, as I said, in fire. So there is a new zeitgeist, or a new spiritual understanding that is upon us. This would be the mystic warrior, and asking us the larger picture here at the most potent degree in the entire chart, 00 degrees Aries, asking us to look at our goals. Aries rules the first house, of course, in cardinal fire, I am, where he's very assertive, being ruled by Mars. So where are our goals? Where is our focus? Where's our I am? Where are we going? And asking us to adjust accordingly if we need to tweak that in themes of Neptune. So especially after that solar eclipse, now we have settled in there as we look at the chart and we see that Neptune is sitting right inside of the 6th house in this chart. And it is at 00 degrees in Aries, 29 minutes. April 1st, we had a interaction with the moon in Uranus, and it's calling for us to see breakthroughs. And in the midst of it, asking us, quite honestly, with the moon there, to stay calm in the face of a rapidly changing environment. The sky shows that the month starts out with a lot of change and movement. On the 4th, Mars was trining Saturn and sextiling Uranus. And this is where we started to see some energies moving forward and information coming to our planet, depending on what part of the world you live in. But we did see some releasing here go on as it was sextiling Uranus. On the 7th, Mercury went direct just a couple days ago here, and information now will begin to move a little bit more forward and perhaps a little bit more clearer. We're hoping anyway. The 6th through the 8th, Venus still in retrograde, and incidentally, as of the time of this moon, she is now shifting out of retrograde as Venus rules this Libra moon. That's quite synchronistic, and we'll take a look at that. But we have the 6th through the 8th, this Venus dancing around with Mars, so to speak, then Saturn, the North Node, going through all these planets, then Uranus eventually. And Venus moves over the next days, really asking us to make sure that we comprehend our direction and we are communicating our direction. Also here, there's a caution in relationships with Venus being involved in Libra to perhaps not shut others out or other ideas due to a disagreement or misunderstanding. There could be that maybe you're not on the same page anymore with someone, and this moon is really bringing this out as we get into it about partnerships and relating and, what's working and no longer working. It's the way that we're doing this that we're being asked to take a look at. Not that we can't have misunderstandings and not that we can't have disagreements, but it's saying, let's take a deeper look at the way that you're managing that energy. Now, from the 12th to the 13th, we've got that full moon coming in at 23 degrees Libra, just minutes after Venus is finally moving forward again and getting ready to connect with Saturn, which will slow her understanding, so to speak, and try to create some boundaries and restrictions and some guidelines, or perhaps if our energies haven't been in Venus and what this all means, moving in harmonic ways, there could be discipline here. Saturn restricts and can show where perhaps we need to grow and deepen and mature in our Venetian themes. This really can be a potentially quite a profound time as you see all these planets lined up there with Venus. We have Venus at 24 degrees, Saturn at 25, the North Node at 27, and Mercury at 28. It's very important with this moon being ruled by Venus in Libra to take a look at how all of that conjunction and stellium in Pisces is communicating with that moon. And right off the bat, we see a challenge because the 12th house, where this Venus moon is sitting, is in what's called an inconjunct or a quincunx, which is 150 degrees away. And it's at an aspect here where the two planets really don't understand each other. We have Libra in water, which is cardinal air energy, in a water house. And then we have her Lord that rules over this moon in water in a fixed fire house. So we've got a lot of energies that are not comfortable in the house that they're in. It doesn't mean that they can't. It means we obviously need to adjust. This is what's being called for here. Where are we finding Sun and Moon and Venus? Our emotional clarity, our craftsmanship and artistry, our connection in partnerships with a higher mission. The 12th house where this moon sits is considered a house of spirituality. It's in that quadrant 10 through 12. It also is in what's called a cadent house. And in the house of Pisces, which is secret and hidden things and has to do with the upper realms, the subconscious realms, the psychic realms, the intuitive realms of the highest nature. Where Libra in air really isn't comfortable there. And she is cardinal air ruling the 7th house of the zodiac wheel. Now, the good news is the 7th house does sextile the 5th house in that harmonic 60 degrees that says, look, if you work with me, if these energies of the 7th and the 5th work together, which they have the ability to energize, synergize, thus harmonize, thus produce something together that they can't produce alone. And sextiles from that 7th to the 5th are ruled by the nature of Venus. So we have a double hit of a pleasure of Venus here and an ability to do this if we would manage this inconjunct, if we would manage this awkward 150 degree and be willing, inconjuncts must be willing to redirect and adjust, and also to divert away any energies that are like, no, this doesn't work, this doesn't fit. So it therefore moves you, right? Moves you forward, and you begin to make other aspects and other, harmonic positions. By the time this Libra moves into the first, it will be trining that Pisces energy and no longer in an inconjunct. And Libra going towards Scorpio with this moon is dealing with a Scorpio ascendant ruled by Mars and Pluto, and is dealing with the 8th house themes of the psychological wheel. And the 8th house themes are in the quadrant of houses 7 through 9, which deal with our relationships. Now, cadent houses, back to that moon over there in the 12th, they want to disseminate and bring out and connect the accumulating energies of the cardinal sign, the fixed sign that then has something of substance to move out in exchange with. Pisces is a mutable sign, and Venus is in a mutable house in cardinal air. So she wants to go out in her own energy, you see. But she's being asked to consider the house that she is in and to be more mutable, more adaptable, and being able to assimilate her energies and her partnerships in a more concluding nature, something that's ending. And we have a 23-degree moon, which is the latter part of the 30 degrees. And this moon moves quick. And it's not a young moon, and it's not in the middle where it's matured. It's moving out of the energies when we get into the last decan, which is the last 10 degrees of the 30 degrees broken down by 3 10-degree pieces. We now see the energy beginning to really get combust and heated up and full. So the degrees matter. We also see 23 reduce to a 5. And we know symbolically the number 5 within numerology is just not an easy number. We also see it within the tarot cards, all of the 5s being ruled by the Hierophant, who is the teacher, and has to do with our philosophy and traditions and our culture and how we conform to our culture. And he's leading over all of the 5s, and saying, look, embody change, embody the winds of change. And it's interesting that we're in an air sign, which has to do with the intellect moving out into the world, communicating with others and associating. And it changes, it encourages us, number 5, to shift, like I was saying earlier, and to move towards 6, right? Towards a more harmonic degree. Because by the time we get to 6, we're definitely in a much more position of authority there. So emotional clarity is the theme here. How am I giving my energy? How am I releasing my energy? How am I exchanging my energy? It's yes, moon and Venus themes, okay? Moon and Libra themes, but we've got to look at the house that it's in. And as you see, it's in conjunct to that 5th house where Pisces is. Pisces isn't home either. So the energies in both places, okay, are asking for adjustments. And we have, when the moon is in Libra, it is considered to be in an exalted position. It does very well here. So, what we also want to look at is this conjunction that this moon is in conjuncting of Venus at 24, Saturn at 25. The North Node has been in retrograde in Pisces at 27, and Mercury. What is all this together? If I were to say, one theme, and that's a lot of energies, but what would be a theme that would be coming out of here? We have to look at the fifth house, because all these planets and energies, they have to move within the rules, so to speak, of the space that they are in. And obviously, any planet can really adapt if it works hard enough. But it's important to look at what energy we're having to deal with. And when we get to Leo, who rules the fifth house, where Pisces is at with those planets, Leo is fixed fire that is ruled by the sun itself and considered a succedent house, which wants to put form and shape and boundaries and structures so it can be of use, so it can be of service, so we can then use it, right? Now, Pisces, in the costume these planets are in, on the stage that it's set in, Pisces likes to move. It's the fish. One fish is going one direction, the other fish is going the other. And it's water, which ties us to, all types of instinctual energy and receptivity. And water and fire bring steam. So all those planets are creating alchemically steam. Not only steam that's just created, but it's fixed. And Pisces wants to move out, and it's being restricted. Pisces is being restricted in the house of ego, in the house that says, look, where are your creative, energetic powers? Highly tied to Venus as well. Venus is our creativity and the things we value, in our artistry and our beauty, and the things that we put down upon the earth. It's ruled by Taurus as well, who is fixed earth, very concerned about things of beauty and security and money. They're all tied to Venus here. With Venus in Leo, we have the planet of relationships and security in our deepest creative artistry being fixed, with thoughts of procreation, recreation, our pleasures. This is the sun, where the ego can shine and likes to play. So this also brings in themes of the children and creativity. Again, I want to bring this out with it being in Pisces and being in a Libra moon in conjunct. We're kind of off here, and our energies aren't lining up with where our Piscean, highest nature ruled by Neptune, ideas and ways of relating, tying back to our solar power energy sun in fixed ways. Hey, where's our harmony? Where is it at? Because Mercury there is talking. And Mercury has now moved forward as of this sun, and it's active, and it's no longer wanting to stay. It's going to be moving out of there very quickly. It zips around the wheel in 88 days. So in Pisces, immutable, it's looking up. This communication is of a high, tall nature. Mercury is the rational mind, right? Ruled by Virgo and Gemini, the Lord there of Virgo and Gemini. And Mercury is reason and communication and intelligence, duality, right? Both in mutable signs. Mercury rules mutable signs. So being able to go back and forth from ourselves to earths to others to up to down. Like there's this harmony here that's being asked of us in the way that we speak, in the way that we move, our highest aspirations and how we talk about them out upon the earth. The moon also rules our skills in craftsmanship, in transportation, where we're moving around in our energies. And with it fixed, here's this agitation again of Mercury wanting to move out, Pisces wanting to move out, and it's sitting in a fixed house. So there could be contention there. And we have to look at where the sun is quickly as another layer to this Pisces. And there is the sun at 23 degrees, obviously opposite the moon in a full moon. And it's in Aries, the polarity of Libra. In Aries as I am, and Neptune, the Lord of Pisces, has moved into I am. So if you get this flow here, we have this ask of us, where are we moving? Our truest, deepest, Piscean, highest level, Neptune-led, dealing with psychic, mystical energy, dreams, sensitivity, our illusions and our delusions, our deceptions. And Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So with Neptune being in Aries, it's already had its maturity through Venus. It's in Neptune, not Venus. And it's saying, hey, look up, okay? Look up, look in at how we can do 12th house themes in our physical Aries I am body. And the 12th house is about service to humanity, self-sacrifice. It is the mystic, the guru, so to speak, the one who is looking up and wanting to take his long retreats that he's done on his mystical journeys and bring them out into the world. We can also see in the 12th house there with the moon, deeply subconscious planet in a deeply subconscious house, asking us to look at what have we repressed? What have we kept down inside of us, relating to air, relating to water, so our steam, our voice. Where have we been using it? How have we been using our voice in the setting of this inconjunction and this disharmonious hard aspect, asking us, how can I redirect? How can I make adjustments? And what do I need to no longer hold on to? Those are really the themes that this moon is trying to bring out for us and trying to create a stronger sense of who we are. And we see this being an Aries season. We have Taurus in the 7th house in this wheel. Now, Taurus, again, is ruled by Venus. So we've got Venus represented here and the sign and the Lord sextiling, but it's 24 degrees away from the cusp of the descendant where it's really strong. You see where, it's going in and it's at that 0037 degree and the cusp of Taurus is able to fix his energy there in a cardinal house and not really have a lot of contention as he's ruled by Venus too. So he's kind of the other side of Venus. but we don't have all those energies close to that initial cusp where it's the strongest. And our part of Futun is sitting where our favor is and where our fortune is. And where if we go towards this Taurus, we will have bounty come to us. No, we have Venus at 24, Saturn at 25, the 27, the 28, North Node Mercury. And it is actually sextiling almost exact all those planets, Uranus in Taurus. And that really, really needs to be discussed because remember, Uranus in July is fixing to go into Gemini, into air. And it'll be there 7 years. So consequently, we're finishing up a Taurus transit that's been going on for the past 6 and 2/3 of a year. Now, Uranus inside of Taurus, the shock and awe planet of unpredictable change, the genius energy, the rebel type of energy, the higher octave of Mercury is Uranus. So it's not earthly knowledge in Uranus. Okay, by the time we move up from Mercury, very earthly concerned, up to Uranus, no, we're being asked to look higher above where this moon is sitting in the 12th house of the highest, most spiritual house in the entire zodiac. So with Uranus and Taurus, this fixed earth Venetian sign, this is innovative and resourceful energies when it comes to money and when it comes to financial dealings. So we're getting with Taurus there, this is the money sign, and one of the money houses is the second house. So we have to bring in money. And Venus is all about equality and balance and wanting things to be in order. So with it in Uranus and the sudden energy coming in, that's quick and sharp and fast, and it being very rebellious. This could be a challenge in money situations with people, and boy, are we seeing this in the greater collective, specifically in the United States of America. A lot of unpredictable energies that are very, very challenging right now. And this original way of doing it, which would tie into these tariffs that we're seeing and some of the other financial choices that the president is making. Now, any resistance here with this energy, right? Uranus doesn't like resistance, and it's in a fixed sign. And this is why there's this building of pressure here. Now, when you then take that energy and you sextile at Venus at, almost an exact degree, 43 minutes away there, this is somebody that's like, you know what? I have my own original way about how I see love. I'm going to be really choosy about the way I see this. And I am going to accommodate my Venus, my freedom, my independence, and how I want to put it out there. This is also, there could be at this time, these openings. Sextiles are harmonious in the nature of Venus if we come together. If we're willing to work with this energy and understand that it's a sign of the times, these two energies can come together and they can create this synergetic connection between really exotic and unusual partners and people who are very independent and people who are very, very unusual. That's the best word. So unusual ideas coming for money, unusual ideas coming for our fixed security, and quick and hard and fast. And again, collectively, Uranus rules collective energies. We see it sextiling Mercury 2 degrees away. And this is going to be reform and different viewpoints of mind and being open to new ideas, very progressive innovative, receptive to change. Mercury doesn't have a problem here receiving this energy in a sextile. And it can think originally, and it can find solutions. Mercury here, if allowed to go out and do what Mercury does, going back and forth, and golly, we seeing this in these tariffs where back and forth information, and we're seeing countries going back and forth trying to negotiate these tariffs. That's what that is going on there. And of course, in the house of ego, right? Leo's house, and Trump is ruled, ironically, by a Leo ascendant. So that kind of comes into play here. We have Uranus also sextiling Mars, and I haven't brought Mars in. Mars has been for almost 7 months going through this transit where it was in Leo and Cancer. And so it's finishing up a real message. And if you've been listening to any of my other videos or any other astrologers, they've certainly been talking about this. But Mars conjunct the midheaven 2 degrees really, because it's at 2755, and sextiling this Uranus. We've got a very visual, midheaven is visual. You're going to see it. It's the high top part of the chart. And it is authorities and public life, our career and our vocation, hugging that midheaven in the 10th house. It's sitting in a Cadenheart house of Sagittarius, which is fire, mutable in a cardinal sign. We've got cardinal and mutability within fire and water, again, producing steam coming out. And this exchange of energy between everything else I just said in a very visual way. And the 9th house is a social house, 7 through 9. These are social identities and houses of relationships. And Mars is going to be very quickly on that midheaven, where now we're dealing with our social expression in an angular house of action in the quadrant of spirituality. So you see, we're trying to find, how do we fit in the bigger scheme of as above, so below, as we're going out to one another in our own personal power of energy. That is what this is about. The moon there rules the unconscious realm and is feminine and is yin receptivity. It's heredity, past and mother. It's nurturing in the family, bringing in the 4th house of domestic life, where we have Aquarius and Pluto saying, look, I'm trying to make some revolutionary change. Now, the 4th house going to be squaring that ascendant 1st house in Scorpio, where Scorpio in the ascendant is all about other people's money and psychology and depth and transformation and change. So his Lord in the 1st is squaring his Pluto and squaring his Mars. There is a T-square here between the ascendant, the Mars and Pluto, and T-squares are a configuration that create a dynamic pattern of opposing and squaring energies. And they can be challenging as they represent intense energies. Squares are in the aspect and nature of Mars. So, wow, are we seeing this on the planet at this time? Just a lot of energies. All I can tell you is this will pass. And yes, these energies will lighten up, but not for a while, guys. We have to make the shifts. We've got 2 planets now that have made these shifts into air and fire. Pluto moving into Aquarius at 3 degrees and will be there till 20 more years, and Neptune now at 0 degrees for 14 more years in fire energy in Aries. And we will have Uranus going into air Gemini, where all of these energies will be in complementary aspects in the outer transits that really rule the collective energies and the greater themes of what's going on out there. So, with Mars going back to this sextiling Uranus, this is a lot of daring, new, different ways of moving our passional energy out, at deeply tied to the midheaven there. And look who's ruling that midheaven is the sun itself, Leo. And the sun itself is at 23 degrees in Aries. And the 6th house is trining in harmony the 10th house. And so there is a lot of personal power here for healing, for transformation. We know this because we've got Chiron the same degree as that sun. So a word to all Aries suns, wherever you are healing and being asked to finish something that's been going on for quite some time regarding the planet and Chiron. In that tight exact conjunction, some of you could really, really be challenged. And like I said, going through it with those energies opposite this moon, this is male relationships with female relationships. This is aggression and relationships coming against the feminine for sure. And aggression that needs to be identified and remedied if you are to move into more harmony. Not holding this energy in. Libra wants to be in a position of diplomacy. Libra is we unite. That is her theme. And Aries is I am. So you could see, this is your self-assertion going out into the world and saying, how am I uniting? And do I have any patterns here that I need to release that have culminated? Moons are about releasing and starting a new cycle, right? We're ending something and we're establishing something new. Again, what am I giving? What am I receiving? Is it fair? Does it feel right? Am I holding back in my own energies? Do I know my Venus? Do I understand my love and relatedness and my values, my social urges, my art, my creation, my attraction, my luck, my personal magnetism, my money, my money, my money, my money? Here's a big one too. With Mars involved, we're dealing with sexual energy here. Some sexual energy shift, ask, and a change is being required of us. Mars is aggressive. Mars rules ego and individuality and survival, yang instincts of passion and courage and competition. So there is an ask here of a balance. What needs to be renegotiated? That is the question of this moon. And this is not easy energy, guys. We're not in energies that are working together with this moon. There is a lot of conflict because Uranus is also sextiling this Saturn. I want to go to this point for a moment. In the 7th house, where Libra usually lives and rules. And we have Uranus coming back over to this Saturn that's right next to this Venus. So really, it's also doing this to Venus. They're so close together. But Uranus is shock, awe, change, revolutionary ideas, going out and up and making things new. And Saturn is about establishing new structures, new ways of doing things. And so with it working in harmony, exact 25 to 25, you can do this. Look, it's like, don't let this change bother you. This would be what they're saying together. In fact, change is a good thing. See it as a force of good. These are the messages of these two planets. Understand, nothing in life is staying the same. Let go. Let go of things and patterns and ways of relating your boundaries. Let's exchange and change. Let's keep this wild side, so to speak, out of control. Uranus can be very wild and very unusual and very different. And Saturn is being restricted here. And, Saturn in Pisces has a message all of its own. And, there's a sacrificing nature that we're being asked to contain here. And compassion, sensitivity, needs of others. And this could really be a struggle because it's in water and, loosey-goosey, like, oh my God, Saturn's like, what the heck? I need to place some boundaries here. This is not going to work out if I don't place boundaries. Now, remember, all those planets are quincunxing that moon. So it'd be fair to say here that this might be a time where you are just not finding it easy to express this energy. You could have trust issues. You could feel exhausted. You could feel extremely overwhelmed. This is energy being held back and restricted that maybe wants to move out. In family responsibilities, this ties to children now, in the 12th house, in our deeper subconscious realm. And, am I emotionally fulfilled? What's going on with the way that I'm moving my moon around? There also could be, and this ties into where I started the video about, remember, moon rules the feminine energy. And this could be problems with female relationships, definitely with Mercury and the North Node and Venus there. We've got some different movement asked of us, and it could definitely be a time of female endings and female beginnings in relationships. Let's talk about the North Node for a minute here. And in retrograde, it actually means it's moving forward. So it's moving right towards that Mercury. And it's going to be going right through Mercury. And then it's going to eventually move back into retrograde. Now, the regular movement of these nodes is it moves backwards around the zodiac. So the nodes in retrograde aren't moving in its natural position, and that brings frustration. The nodes, Rahu, he wants to move out, and he wants to move forward. He don't mind being in Pisces, that's mutable water, but in retrograde, it's not really reviewing. It's going forward in a veracity way. It's wanting to form communicative relationships with individuals, Mercury, Venus, all in Pisces, that are like the same way that he is. And he's spiritual there. And his values are extremely important to him here. Speaking about values, and there could be, with the North Node here, a watering down where fog and illusion come in, and with it, moving forward instead of in its normal regular pattern backward, it's not moving in its right way. So it might not be able to see how it's supposed to be spiritual, how it's supposed to direct its energy. But, in the 5th, I can tell you that Rahu and that North Node are going to be concerned about 5th house things, which is pleasures and fun and spiritual themes and Neptunian themes, because it's a Neptune-ruled North Node, and Neptune, its lord there, is in Aries. And we know it just moved in, and it's in Virgo's house, where that Sun and Chiron, they're trying to clean up and put a better, different, higher view on that 6th house. Sixth house is ruled by Virgo of self-improvement, another service house, but service like day to day in our employment and work routines and health and nutrition. And we're being asked, how can those wounds of the past, Chiron, wounds of childhood, Chiron, the most deepest, sharpest wounds of our life, how can we heal? Oh, yes. Healing is being asked at this time in all things partnerships, in all things you versus the other. You versus the other. I want to share for a moment Jupiter. Jupiter's been traveling in Gemini, and obviously we'll move into Cancer here in June. But it is in this Gemini air quality. And Gemini and Jupiter brings a blessing of fortune and favor when we act like Jupiter in Gemini. What does that mean? Well, Jupiter's going to bring fortune and favor wherever Jupiter goes. And Jupiter is in our expansive principle, ruling the ninth house of Sagittarius, of travel, long distance information, communication, higher education, not the lower education of the third house of Gemini, but the higher education. So with Gemini being ruled by the third house and Jupiter now put in Gemini in a third house theme, right? Gemini is going to be very curious about wanting to know more about its philosophies, about religion, about spiritual things, and wanting to perhaps cast off these shallow and insincere connections. How do we know this? Well, it's in the 8th house of Scorpio. So this is fixed waters. So your mutable air communication inside of the guru, your beliefs, what you adhere to in the larger framework, right? Inside of Gemini in the 8th. This is going to be beneficial energy having to do with money and other people's money, talking about other people's money, wealth and luck and financial resourcefulness can come into your life when we have Jupiter transiting that 8th house. And it's sextiling the sun in Aries. So an opportunity here to have a positive outlook on life if we would but look at that 8th house of Scorpio, which is ruling the body, the ascendant in this chart, our physical way that we move ourselves out. With it trining the moon, Jupiter in a harmony position with the moon, air to air. You got this. And you will have an ability to do this, but we've got to deal first with all the prior themes I talked about. But it really is trying to heal a deeper part of your psyche in the way that you communicate, in the way that you partner with others, in the way that you're socially aware of your air energy with others, in your beliefs. And boy, have we seen some anger and fire breakout. We see it in the two parties of Democrat and Republican where, it's like it's my way or the highway energies, and there's no tolerance here, no tolerance at all for anyone that has a different opinion from one opinion to another. And you can see this moon coming in, trining this Jupiter, and having this harmonious nature of Jupiter because trines are the nature of Jupiter. It's a double hit of Jupiter. And relations with women are generally very, very positive at the time of this moon. So the challenge we have here with this Jupiter, though, is it is squaring the Lord of this moon, right? We know Venus is the Lord, and Jupiter coming down to the fifth squares all of those energies of Mercury, the North Node, Saturn, and Venus. Remember, squares are in the nature of Mars. It's irreconcilable energy. Again, do we see this? This irreconcilable energy that's, we're trying to figure out where we fit in and what our voice is. So with it squaring, all right, there's going to be periods here for, the square isn't going to last too long, and it is a looser square. So it really squared when Venus was at 17, which was a while ago. But these energies are moving away from the square, trying to go towards that sextile where, Mercury's going to be, the North Node's going to be, and Venus is going to be. And pretty soon we're going to see, and we'll talk about this next month, Saturn conjunct Neptune, which is a whole thing that we're going to need to address and talk about. But there's a challenge here in closing of finding this middle path and enjoying life, right? And keeping it real. Jupiter is beneficial, large, wants to exchange, wants to go out. It's ruled by mutable fire, the Centurion Sag. And Saturn's ruled by Capricorn, cardinal energies of Earth. This is about me and where I want to put my structures down on Earth, Capricorn would say. And you can see the tension here with it squaring. And again, occasionally you might feel for the next couple weeks dissatisfaction with where you're at in life and what you're doing with creative energies and where you're supposed to be, because it's all up in that house of psychology. Super important to see Jupiter in the 8th there and what that means. So with that, I'm going to close, and I hope that insight was helpful to you, and it just showed you how these energies are speaking to one another. I do want to encourage you. I know that the energies are very challenging, and I know that it's not easy out there. But I want to say control the controllables. And really, at the end of the day, the only thing we can control is our own energy. Let us have tolerance for different opinions. And if we do speak, let us come forth in a way that allows the other to see and hear and potentially change. Because I think if we come with our opinions in anger and rage and violence, how is that going to ever bring someone over to our side? And if we believe in something, gosh, Libra would say this with everything inside of her. She could compromise her energy, right? That's a downfall of Libra in the shadow. And she could be too much going towards one side with her love and her affection and her relatedness. And Venus needs to balance. She needs to be able to be judicial, like the judge, like the justice card, right? And see from both sides of the fence. This is what she's being asked to do here. And accountability, fairness, integrity, legal matters with the justice card of balance and logical consequences. It represents being honest and fair and objective and living in alignment with our values and coming back always to a state of equilibrium. And the moon waxes and wanes, and it moves a lot. So very challenging for Libra at times to allow herself to wax and wane and balance. And really, the Justice card reduces to a 2, and it's all about the gentle dance of opposites here and the balance in partnerships. So look at all of the 2 cards in the tarot, starting with the major arcana and the 2s that line up with this card, which would be the Two of Swords, and that would be the moon in Libra. The Three of Swords would be Saturn in Libra, and the Four of Swords would be Jupiter in Libra. And take a look at those three cards with the Justice card up, and this is what this moon is really trying to convey. And the ancient goddess here in Egyptian lore of this moon Justice card is Mot, the most ancient goddess of wisdom. And she's seen as the guardian of justice, truth, and ethics of the universe. And I just want to remind you, we're in our truest, most powerful feminine energy and feminine power when we launch from a place of balance. Thank you for your time, and blessed be over thee.